and they have been moving from becoming a crew member. They have become seafarers, officers, masters, chief engineers. They became managers, and now they are also becoming owners. So it is very nice to see that Indian seafarers are growing day by day, and certainly a very proud moment for all of us that we can contribute to it over a period of time. Thank you very much for joining us today evening. We will just wait for a couple of more minutes for
Yeah,
our
I
friends to
think
join.
I think we are good to start. We have 15 people with us. Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I am sure we are good to start, and it will be
Yes.
good that we can continue from here.
Okay, yeah. Okay, fine. Thank you, sir. So let me introduce myself. I'm Advocate Kritika, and today I'll be the host, or I'll be communicating here. I'm really very happy that we have sir with us. And before starting the session and introduction, I would like to wish you a happy National Maritime Day. And yes, I know sir is going to speak a lot of things about maritime, but let me add my bit to it. So, why do we celebrate today as National Maritime Day? So, this April 5th, it marks the National Maritime Day of India. On this day, in 1919, navigation history was created when SS Loyalty, the first ship of the Sky India Steam Navigation Company, journeyed to the United Kingdom. Henceforth, the National Maritime Day is celebrated on 5th of April since 1964. Now, giving the brief background of Sir Advocate Rahul Varma, who is also a very famous master mariner. So, he is the founder of AMLS, and he founded it with an aim of providing one window solution for all maritime and legal service. He is a practicing advocate in Mumbai and Goa High Court as well. So he has a vast experience of 27 years in shipping industry, including 13 years at sea and 14 years at ashore in the senior management roles and expert to various organizations. He heads Ali Maritime and Legal Service and gives strategic direction to alliances of AMLS in recruitment and consultancy services. He assists clients in quality, ISO, ISM, and legal compliance of maritime, ship recycling, logistics, and other various sectors. He has been invited by various forums as speaker and mentor young talent towards a focused and passionate career path. He has also been hired as a senior non-key expert by GIS International Services to study the status of marine labor convention in Asian countries as a part of E-READ project. He headed he had Shore constituency team was as a crisis media manager, trainer, fleet, personal safety and quality vetting and operations manager, and handled office administration over a period of 12 years in his employment. We Indian Institute of Industrial and Professional Studies are extremely elated to have Advocate Rahul Varma as a speaker and addressing our gathering today on the special occasion of National Maritime Day. I am in short of words to explain my gratitude to you sir to making your time on this special day of National Maritime Day and addressing this quorum and making IIPS India as a platform. Thank you so much, and it is over to you.
Thank you very much. And once again, a very big thanks for everybody who has joined good in time. I hope some more will join very soon also. So, uh, once again, thanks and welcome to all the mariners, and a special happy Maritime Day today. After a long time, people have started meeting together, and functions are happening everywhere. So I am sure everybody will be elated to see the progress and the commitment of the Indian seafarer, which happened over a period of time during the COVID, especially when a lot of problems did come around and lot of issues were there to deal with. The world was caught unaware, and especially the maritime fraternity itself was not very well prepared for it, and a lot of problems and issues happened. But Fortunately, the ship managers, the seafarers, and the ship owners, the port, all came together and made sure that this crisis does not affect the whole world economy. And the world was still running while we were sitting in our home. And the world was running because the ships were running. The ships were sailing from port to port and taking things and medicines, food, and all other items that you would have done on online shopping to be delivered at your home. Now, the commitment of these seafarers, that is why they were called the key workers. They were declared as key workers, and some special privileges were given and offered to them. As I said, that the community, the world itself was caught suddenly without being prepared for such a thing called COVID, and especially the seafarers. They had a lot of problems while sailing from one place to another, getting home, finding the right medication, finding the right facilities to help them to have a normal life. But still, they went through all that. So a very big cheers to the Indian seafarers and all the other seafarers of various nationalities. And as appropriate, today we are getting into a topic which is a very big concern for a lot of people, and especially the seafarers, and that is the criminalization of seafarers at sea. So now I'll just try to share my screen and just make sure that we are starting off. Okay. Just give me a minute. I'll just share my screen. So while I start off, you will have to understand how the shipping industry works and how this issue of criminalization is a very important factor to be considered. So, okay. So, Kritika, can you confirm you are seeing my screen now? The PowerPoint?
Yes, sir. I'm able to see it. Yes, sir. I'm able to see it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, why criminalization of seafarers is a very important aspect today? Why seafarers are in a big problem while being on a ship? I'll give you an example. Today, the Indian tonnage is not very big. So, a lot of Indian seafarers go and work on various flagships. Now, assume a situation. A ship is flagged in Panama. That is, the owner is registered in Panama. The ship manager may be sitting somewhere in Hong Kong. The person who is the ISM manager of the ship. The crew manager is sitting in India. The ship class is from a country like a Norway. And the ship itself is sailing somewhere in some country in Africa. And not only that, on the ship itself, there are people from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Philippines, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Vietnam, and all these places. The cargo which is carried on that ship was somewhere loaded from most probably Australia or somewhere. The charterers of the vessel were sitting somewhere in UK. And the consignee is somewhere in Africa. Now, I hope you understand that so many people, so many countries, so many nationalities are involved in all this work. The biggest problem which comes with the seafarers is, in case of any issue, in case of any problem which they face at sea or in port, is that what jurisdiction would apply to them. I'm sure you would have heard the story that the ship, the flag, whichever it flies, it is the piece of land considered floating in water, which would mean that basically the rules and regulations of the country of which the flag the ship is flying would be the most important to be considered in case of any dispute or any issue. However, it normally is not so. Normally what happens is that the place where the incident has happened, the area where this incident has happened, the people who are affected by that, the government, the authorities, the flag state, which is most affected by this, is the one which is more prevalent. And they say that because we have been harmed, we are the people who would be taking the proceedings. Obviously, the other flag state of the flag which the ship is flying does come into play and does have a say in that also. But most of it is for the country where the incident or accident or any issue has happened, because of which seafarers have been put into a situation where they can be criminalized. The word criminalization of seafarers is usually spoken when something really big happens. And what is something big? Something big is, for example, an oil pollution which happens in some state. Like last year, if I remember right, the one Mauritius, near the Mauritius, one of the vessel had grounded and broken into two, and a lot of oil had come out. Now, obviously, the Mauritius government was in fury because of this. They had a big problem of their ecosystem out there, and a lot of harm happened to the marine life, their economical life, economical issues of business, because their main earning is tourism. And because of this oil, they lost a lot of tourism. The fishermen out there were having a lot of problem. Similarly, there was a very famous case of Erika, which had broken into two pieces and had caused a lot of harm to a certain area in Europe. And then there was another case in South Korea and other places when one other ship came and banged on one of the oil tankers, and because of which there was an oil pollution. And since there was an oil pollution, the ship which caused the oil pollution was considered to be the big problem. And they were, the master of that ship was arrested and kept in jail for a lot of time. But these are very big cases, and obviously the whole world comes to know about it. And a lot of things, lot of media attention comes to it. And thus we can follow it up. We know exactly what is happening. However, in a day-to-day life of a seafarer, in a day-to-day movement of a ship from one place to another, also a lot of things happen. And today, I am not going to talk about the big cases. I am not going to talk about only about the issues which the media catches up, but I am going to talk about a day-to-day issue which a seafarer can face and what are his rights in case he is caught up in such a situation. So these are not about fancy cases. These are about the small issues which a seafarer would face, a master would face, a chief engineer would face when on ship in a different port, apart from his country of residence or apart from a country from which the flag is, the vessel is registered with. This is a very, very strong statement. A civilian's mistake is a mistake, but a seafarer's mistake is a crime. Now, you all know that we are all living in a society where we have incidents, accidents, we have accidents, collision of cars and things like that. We have motorcycle or cycle accidents or walking on the road also. Sometimes we have an incident, accident. And until unless it can be proved that the person intentionally was doing it or was under any kind of influence of drugs, alcohol, or something like that, which caused him to do something like this, it is considered a mistake, a penalty, and things like that. However, when a seafarer or a master or a ship causes any issue, causes any problem, causes even a small incident which can harm the local place or the local port or things like that, it can be considered a crime. The word civil and crime, for the people who are the lawyers out here, would very clearly demark that how the jurisdiction, how the laws, how the legal issues would come into play. And you can understand that as soon as you say something is a crime, how big an issue that becomes, how major it can affect the legal system and the way that case would be handled. Thus, this is the issue which every seafarer faces. And every seafarer wants to ask this question, that why my mistake is considered a crime? Why do we say a mistake? Let's say a ship is going from one place to another, and in between it does not judge its course properly or something like that, and it gets grounded and causes some harm to the local fauna and the sea life out there. The seafarer says, I was doing my best in order to ensure that my ship would go in a proper way. However, because of some mechanical mistake, because of some navigation error which I took, or some navigation equipment that failed, because of that, this ship went to a certain different location, and this is what has happened. Now, I have not intentionally, the mens rea is not there. The idea to cause harm to you is not there. It has just happened. It's a mistake. But still, the local government, the local administration, the port, they would not consider it as a mistake, but consider it as a crime. And the master and the ship staff could be arrested for it till the trial happens and till the judgment is given. This has been seen very obvious in many cases. We'll discuss a few as we go ahead. So I hope, Kritika, I'm loud and clear to whatever I'm saying, and it's all going good.
Yes, yes, sir. All going good. You are loud and clear, and we are
Any
understanding too.
any specific questions before I start?
No, sir. Nothing as of now.
Thank you. If anybody types any question or something, please let me know, because I am seeing a full
Sure, sir.
screen. So you can
Sure,
interrupt me anytime. And I request
sure.
the audience, you may be muted for a reason, because a lot of static and all comes if somebody starts off his mic. Feel free to put a question in the chat box. And this is an interactive webinar which we are trying to make. And I would be happy to stop and answer some questions along the way. So now we
Sure, sir.
come to the issue of criminalization. Some of it I might have covered in my initial talk. So the issue of criminalization of seafarers is a serious, difficult, and complex issue. Serious, we certainly understand. Difficult, because a lot of people at land, and I'm sure if some of you have joined, and for the sake of just understanding what is maritime and maritime law and criminalization and seafarers, you would understand these laws are very different, and they're also a bit technical in nature. So a usual lawyer who has cleared his LLB or done his some practice may not still understand the admiralty law, because it is a bit more technical also nature, along with the legal issues. And complex, I already told you, with the different nationalities, the different jurisdiction that a seafarer goes through, a ship goes through, that makes it a very complex issue. Seafarers, especially masters and senior officers of ship, are increasingly being investigated and charged when an accident happens, especially where environmental damage occurs. See, when you say an accident, if on a ship an accident happens within the crew members, we normally make a accident incident report. We find out a root cause analysis for that. We take a corrective action of ensuring that it will not happen immediately again. Then we go on to take a preventive action so that it will not happen in our fleet of ships which we have got. And we also share it with our other ship owners, other colleagues, so that they can also learn from these incidents. However, if an accident happens of a person from shore, then the case is different, because that person or his union or his company or his family can always come against the ship, that how this accident happened, what did you do, was it intentional or not, we are not aware about it. So they need to carry out a full investigation also. And especially if an oil spill happens or a grounding happens which causes some cargo to get into the water or things like that, the local authorities, the fishermen, the other local seafaring community does have a big say in that. And they would like to have a real deep investigation in order to find out the root cause and punish and penalize the ship and the ship owner and the master and the seafarers on board for the issue, the accident which has happened. There is inevitably heightened political tension given the anticipated public and media reaction to such events. And states are often very quick to blame even before an investigation is conducted. As it is very normally said that you cannot put a name criminal to any person who has been said to have done any offense. It has to be proved that that person did actually carry out that offense before that person can be blamed and can be termed as a criminal. However, because of such media attention, because of such media highlights, because of the political issues, it is very often that the media, the country which has got into this situation where some environmental pollution has happened, or the nationality of that country has been affected, some nationals of that country have been affected, to come out with some media statements blaming the staff and the captain of the ship immediately. Even before the investigation is carried out, even before we know the actual situation, what happened, we are blaming the master of the vessel, the ship in that also case. Well, there was some surveys which I have taken out data from, and as per the Seafarers Right International SRI survey of 2018, 90.21% of the seafarers did not have legal representation. Legal representation means when a seafarer is affected. Now, again, as I told you, I am looking at not only the big scenarios where the countries, the media attention comes. We are talking of much more smaller criminal charges which seafarer face. 90.21 did not have legal representation. Thus, a seafarer taken at random from all seafarers who had faced criminal charges is 1.72 times more likely not to have legal representation than to have legal representation. 81.25% considered that they had not been fairly treated. We will come to it. What does fairly treated mean? 80% considered that they had been intimidated or threatened. 88.60% did not have their legal rights explained. 91.20% were not provided with interpretation services. I'm sure my lawyer friends who have joined in this would understand what a grave situation we are and what has to be done today. Especially a couple of things. Interpretation services. As I told you, the ship is moving all over the world and the local authorities obviously use the local language. Now, if that seafarer is not even told what is being said to him by the person in front, how will he understand that? if he is not told what are his legal rights in that place wherever he is standing? How will he safeguard his rights? And obviously, if he is intimidated and threatened, he is a lone person out there. He does not have his family, he does not have his friends, he does not have his community, and he's one lone person standing in front of the police or the local investigation agency. What do you expect him to do? And the worst of it all, the STCW convention, which teaches us so much about how to run a ship, never taught us what are my rights and what are my duties in case I am termed as a criminal for any reason when I'm at sea. We have no training at all as seafarers to understand whatever our rights are. How can we protect ourselves? We just don't know. What we know is that we have been given a contract and we are supposed to go on a ship. We are supposed to work, and hopefully we'll be signed off after a certain period of time. And hopefully we will not get into any problem or any activity which we have not done but still are blamed for. Let's move on. There is one more survey which has been carried out by Nautilus Federation in 2019. 90% of the seafarers interviewed worldwide admitted that they feared being criminalized. And the 70% said that the fear was negatively impacting the feeling of working at sea. What does this mean? Now, today, if a young fellow goes up to a seafarer and says that, do you think I should join the sea? Do you think that I should become a seafarer and live a fancy life? Why I say a fancy life? You know, most of the seafarers, when you talk to them, why have you joined the sea? Most of the, at least the Indian seafarers today, would say that it is a good life at ship because you get to work and mostly get paid also a very handsome salary. Why I say mostly? Because a lot of cases have happened where the owners have abandoned the ship and the people have not been paid. That's another story which I'll come to later. But most of the ship owners, most of the ship managers are good and they do pay handsomely to an Indian seafarer. And the better part of the story is that our salary, if we are a non-resident Indian, if you are sailing on a foreign flag ship for a certain period of time, is also not taxed. And that makes this job a very lucrative job. Many people ask me that why did I join sea? Well, I have to be frank with you. When I was pretty young and thinking of what to do in life, and I was not finding much avenues to grow into that time, apart from being an engineer at ashore or being a doctor or something like that, I had seen a fancy photograph of a captain. And if you Google and see some pictures of animations of captain, you will find an animation of a captain with a very smart uniform, with a parrot sitting on his shoulder, with a heavy gold chain, a wine glass, and maybe a cigar in his hand, and a lot of fun and fanfare happening behind it. And of course, a lot of dollars ushering out of his pocket. Now think of that image for a 19-year-old person who wants to join sea. And he sees that is what the life he can have when he grows up. But he does not see, or she does not see, the life which that person would have had to go through to reach that status. So most of the seafarers, at least in India, do go and join a ship because of the handsome remuneration and mostly a happy life that they can have working on the ship. But this changes if you are told that if you do any mistake on the ship, how you can be penalized and how you can be termed as a criminal on that ship. So, in case God forbid, a pollution happens by mistake, even without your mistake. If a ship comes and bangs you, makes a hole in your hull, and some oil comes out of it, without you doing any mistake, you still can be penalized. So, due to pollution, 85% people feel that they will certainly be criminalized, even if they have not made any mistake. Liability for a third party. That means if any person or stevedore working on ship is there and they have done something mistake, they can still be penalized. 51% think that. Incorrect paperwork. I'm not sure if you're aware that we do a plethora of paperwork on board before we come to port. And there are certain countries in which a small declaration, a small misdeclaration can lead to a big problem. If you have by mistake not declared some medicines which are expired, some currency which is there in your pocket or locker, you can be criminalized for that also. Leaving the vessel and equipment in poor condition. A seafarer on board has got very limited resources, and the person has to maintain the ship still in a good condition. If he is not given any stores or spares by the owner or the ship manager, he can do nothing about it. And he can only allow that equipment or the machinery or the deck or the ship to deteriorate without any proper resources. However, even in that case, a port can say that you have brought an unseaworthy ship to my port. And then also the seafarer can be criminalized. Injuring or killing a person on board. The stevedores are working, the people are working, they can have incidents, they can have accidents with so many machinery running around, so much happening. But still, you can, as a seafarer, be blamed for it. Incident relating to alcohol or drugs. Of course, it is a very serious issue. Using alcohol and drugs while you're working. And drugs, especially not only the drugs which are used for intoxication, but the drugs here also mean any drug which you have taken as a medication. Even if you have taken a drug as a medication and you are found impaired and you have not performed your duty well, you still can be in a problem. Injuring or killing a person on the shore side, like the people who are coming for doing surveys on board, the tally members who are coming, the workers which are coming on board, who may not be wearing the proper PPE, the personal protective equipment, and still be working on board. If any of them get injured or killed on board, still the master is responsible for it. Cargo damage and loss. Of course, the cargo which is coming, it can be packed in containers. Even the master may not know what is there inside it, but apart from the declaration which has been given to him. But still, if it is a very important cargo and an expensive cargo, or something like something which has to be used in drugs for medication, and some losses occur or things like that happen, still the master and the ship staff can be liable for it and can be said to be criminals if things have gone wrong. There are some recent instances that I would like to share with you. And before I continue, Kritika, all going well? You can hear me well? Any
Yes, sir. I
questions
can. Yeah,
that people would have asked, or any remarks or
yes,
comments
sir.
they would have done?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There is a question from Riaz, and even I have a question.
Okay.
So let me start with the question of Riaz. So Riaz is asking you that doesn't that become the responsibility of the manning agency to make the seafarers aware of their legal rights and the contact details if in trouble?
First, I think there are two parts of this question. One is, should the manning agency make them aware of the legal rights? And the second is, should they make them aware of the contract? Okay, these are two different questions. First, I will answer the contract part of it. Yes, any manning agency should give sufficient time to the seafarer to read his contract, understand his contract, and ask questions if required and get clarification before he signs it. No doubt about it. So a seafarer's SEA, what we called is Seafarer Employment Agreement. That is something that you as a seafarer need to make sure is available to you sufficient in time that you can read it, review it, and then only sign it. And if you want any changes to it, you can always discuss it, of course. However, with all due respects to my all seafarers, there are hardly any seafarers who would have read their full contract also. The only thing which most of the seafarers see in their contract is how many USD, US dollars I'm going to get. And that's it. Unfortunately, the seafarers just don't bother to read their contract properly also. Second question. Is the RPSL agent or the manning agency supposed to give you a lecture on your rights and duties? No. He is just the agent of the owner or the manager, and his job is to give you a proper contract which has been agreed with the owner, manager, and the RPSL authorities in the country, and make you aware that what are the conditions of employment that you will get on board. He is nowhere qualified to tell you what are your legal rights or duties when on board, because the person who's taking an RPSL may or may not be a mariner or a lawyer or any professional concerned with shipping. He can just be an HR who has sufficient experience in manning and shipping, who has started a manning agency. So you as a seafarer, it's your duty to find out your rights and duties. It's nobody's obligation to tell you that what is your legal rights and what are your legal duties. As a citizen of a country, tell me, how many of you have been ever told what is your right and duty just when you are there? It's only when you go to the school. In the civics class, most probably you would have been taught about the constitution, about the rights and duties of the seafarers, of the citizen, and things like that. How many of you as a citizen have ever received any lecture that what is your rights and duties, apart from reading in your civics class and giving an exam? Please tell me. Kritika, tell me, before
No,
you
sir.
become a lawyer, were you told about all
Not at
this?
all. Not at all.
And today, just because you have become a lawyer and you have read about the constitution, that is why you are aware about your rights and duties. Am I right?
Yes, exactly, sir. Exactly. Like what you said, we were just reading what is there in the civics, like the
Yeah.
constitution and apart only those things. But we were never told like what is the practical part of it, what is the rights and duties. We were never exposed to that side of the law.
Right. And what is your question now?
Yeah, sir. I have a question. Like now, as you spoke, the career option, like maritime as a career option, I see that even today, many of the youths they do not prefer maritime as a career option at all. Even the parents do not welcome their children telling that I want to be in sea, I want to be a seafarer, or I want to sail. It is always believed, and the notion of the society is that only the wanderlust people they would be choosing this profession and they would be roaming here and there. So what is your take on that? What would you tell to those parents?
If today somebody asks me about making a choice in a career as a seafarer, I tell them it is not a bad choice, but it should not be the first choice.
Okay.
In today's time, there are enough opportunities in the world, in at least our country, I would say, which are much better than becoming a seafarer. However, let me talk some positives about the whole thing before I talk anything more. The positive part is that you really get a big job satisfaction when working at sea, because a lot of things which you see in front of your eyes happening because of your work. And especially as you grow as a senior person, as an officer or a crew member also over a period of time, you get a chance to learn a lot of things on board. It's a very different kind of a life which you need to understand if you want to take it. You have to be prepared to be away from your family for a long time. The contract system of seafarers is very much streamlined now, and if you go through a proper channel, you may not face any difficulty. And lot of companies in India have come up which are very good, and they give a good option of salary, living style on board, food and things like that. And certainly one very important aspect, even an average person with an average intellect and average at studies can join a seafaring community, the seafaring job, learn the job on the while working. I'll give you my example, although things have changed now. When I joined the ship in 1993 July, the first time I took a aeroplane ride to go to UK, Liverpool, the first time I ever saw a ship in my life, the first time ever I was going to work on any place. I was very lucky that I had very good people on board who taught me. And for almost 18 months, I was away from home. And I did not see my family for 18 months. But then things have changed now. Today, you need to do some courses before you join ship. You are made aware of what is life on ship, how things are on ship. So you can decide. Having said all that, if you are a person of even some academic interest, and you have some potential to do good in exams and things like that, there are much better options in life today, at least in our country. And the remuneration that you get at sea is certainly very handsome in a very short period of time. But then the money that you get, you may not be able to enjoy fully while you're on ship. Maybe your family can enjoy a lot more than others. But you yourself would have to remember that you are dedicating this money, your life, to your family, to your near dear ones who need it. And after a certain period of time, after many years, when you are good enough that you can try to find a way to come ashore and then start a new life as a shore officer or a member of any other such place like that. So for me, seafaring today should not be your first choice, but it is not a bad choice. That's what I think. Right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Some recent instances that have happened on criminalization of seafarer. Cyprus registered UBC Savannah detention in Mexico 2019 case. Captain Andres Lasota was detained unconvicted in Mexican prison for 2 years after his crew found packets of cocaine. First, the entire crew was arrested for several weeks. The captain was alleged of negligence in failing to be aware that the ship he commanded contained prohibited substance in excess of 250 kgs of cocaine, buried under a several thousand tons of coal. It has been a big business of transporting such uncontrolled and prohibited drugs on ship. There have been examples where, you know, those, I forget the name now of that lizard, which are very big lizards, and I'm just forgetting the name of that lizard. It's a fancy name which has got, I forget it now. They have been stuffed with, they are very big lizards, monitor lizards and all that, and they have been stuffed with drugs, and they have been asked, they have been put inside the ship hold, and they have been made sure that they just keep roaming around there, and when they come to the next port, the people are there to find them, and they take it out, and then they cut them open to remove the drugs also. There have been cases where on the ship side, they have made a small welding and a small box, and they put drugs into it so that it can be taken out in some other port. Now, when things like these, and this, of course, this cargo, they can be a container which can have illegal drugs in that. And the master, like in this case, there is some drugs which have been hidden in bags and all, and coal loaded on top of it. Now, and long time back, I remember in one of the Indian ships which was coming from Iran or Dubai or somewhere, There was a big business of putting gold bars into various places on the ship also. In some cases, of course, the ship staff was also involved, but in most of the cases, the ship staff was not even aware about it. Now, assuming that the ship staff was not aware about it, how do we go about it? In case you cannot prove that the ship staff was also a part of this business of bringing this illegal substance or prohibited substances to a country, how do you go about it? Till the time an investigation cannot happen, how do you treat that person? Like in this case, he was not even convicted, the master and the ship staff, but they were kept in a prison for almost 2 years. How do you justify this? That poor fellow was in the prison for such a long time and wasted 2 years of his precious life. Who comes to help him? How do the governments react towards such a case? Another case, MV Hamal case. In the 2015 case, MV Hamal was stopped at the high seas offshore Scotland and found to be carrying 3.2 tons of cocaine. The master and the second in command were convicted of drug smuggling, and the ship was forfeited and sold at auction. How do you prove this? That the master and the second in command, the chief officer on that ship, were responsible for it. Were they responsible or not? Because they are not aware so much of cargo comes on board. You don't go and check every cargo. You don't go and check every bag. It's not possible only. I'm sure you would have seen pictures of a container ship or a general cargo ship which carries maybe 200 containers, 300 containers, or maybe 200, 2,000, 20,000, 25,000 tons of cargo. How do you go and check that? And unless it can be proved that the master was aware and the ship staff was aware of such an activity happening on the ship, why should they be asked to be suffering as a criminal? Then, MSc Guinea case. In this case, the ship was detained for nearly 1 month and released from US custody on bail following a payment of 50 million to the US government. A major issue for the owners of the ship and the circumstances in that ship is seized and held by the government until the completion of the legal process, which can take weeks, months, or year. Now, this again was a case where the ship staff was caught unaware and they had been, put to all turmoil for no reason. Now we come to what I am going to talk today. More importantly, is examples of not so high profile cases, but a regularly occurring case of criminalization, which are usually managed locally and don't hit the newsstand. It is not the media who is making the big hue and cry about it. It is the seafarer who is suffering. First, the harassment of a master due to a simple documentation mistake that is particular to the port of arrival requirement. There are a lot of, especially in African countries, where if you make some mistake in your document, some misdeclaration of a very minor nature which can easily be corrected. I'll give you an example. I had some cold drink, Coca-Cola, which had an expiry date on it. And it was just 1 month back, it had expired. I was harassed by the customs in a country in Africa that you are carrying expired Coca-Cola in your ship stores. I really don't know how that had come in place there, but there were few cans which were found there. So I said, so what? What do I do with it? You want to put it, I will open it and put it in the flush. And that's it. What else you want me to do? They said, no, we'll fine you $500 or $1,000 for carrying this expired Coca-Cola in your stores. Well, I had experience, and this is, I'm talking 2005. I had sufficient experience of that port. So I could manage to talk out to those people, and I just refused to pay. I even threatened the customs officer that if you are going to harass me or tell me that I have done something wrong, I will stop the cargo. I will take out my ship out of here till the time this thing is resolved. So I said I'll call my charterers who have brought this petrol to your country, and I'll tell them to stop this cargo. Well, I was fortunate that those people agreed to me and they did not harass me more. And they told me that, Captain, you are a bigger mafia than us. I said, well, I am now used to what you are doing and I know how to deal with you. But still, just as a sign of gesture and some, just to make sure that diplomatically things can be resolved, I just offered them some good food and some cans of Coca-Cola, and they were very happy to go back. Cigarette is one very important thing on a ship also. Recently, you would have heard that in places like Egypt and all, and it is said that the pilots, they like to get cigarettes as a token of appreciation for their service. And if you don't give them, then they do really bug you. These are isolated cases, and recently Egypt has come out with a very strict policy to avoid all such issues also. However, in day-to-day life also we know that although we try to do things in a very straightforward manner, we try to make sure that we don't have to bribe anybody, we don't have to get things done in a special way, but people sometimes do expect some appreciation in kind of cash or some goods or things like that, and often we reciprocate if we can. Similar situation is at sea. However, the problem comes that if you don't do it, and then you have to face the brunt of all that, then is the problem which happens. Carriage of family members of ship staff without a visa or seaman book. Now, this was a very big problem, especially again in a lot of African countries, where if your family did not have the visa, now think of it. I make my family join in India and I don't even know where my ship will go. Now, if my ship suddenly gets chartered to go to Nigeria or go to some other place like that, how am I expected to take the visa of everybody in the world, every country in the world? I'm not expected to have all the visas there. But they say that if you have come to my country with a supernumerary, which is a family member, you should have a visa for that. And if you don't, then you have to pay a fine for it and take a visa for it. Well, you can do nothing much about it because they show you a rule book which says that this is my rule which says, and I'm doing it like that. Till the time they're ready to take a visa fee, it's fine because it's the country rule. But if they harass you for more, then it becomes a problem. I'll give you a funny example of Europe, actually. While I was sailing, I was with my wife, of course, and my kid also sailing as a master. I went to one of the ports in Europe where they very politely told me that you cannot go out with your family because the visa requirements are there. Usually, Europe was a very nice place for seafarers because we were allowed to go out. There were these vans would come from the churches and the seamen missions. They would take us out for shopping and things like that. They actually would arrange tours for us in the city and take us to the malls and things like that. And that was a real good time which we had in Europe. However, once the EU came into place, there were restrictions on the going out from a ship to the port and all, especially for the seafarers also, and also to their family members. So this the immigration officer who came, I asked him, okay, my wife is there. What do you expect me to do? I want her to take out. So that immigration officer very politely told me that, sir, you'll need to go to the central town city along with your wife, apply for a visa, and then go around. I said, so I will be allowed to go to the central town city? He said, yes, you are allowed to go to the central town city. So I said, thank you very much. And I requested him to call a cab for me. And actually, I went into the cab which he had called for me. I went out to the city. I went out, I did my shopping, I went around, saw things, and I came back to the ship. So happily, we went out and came back. There was no harassment for us. There was no issue for us. But when we reached there for the visa applying, they said we are closed now. So I had to come back to the ship. Meanwhile, I did all my small shopping and came back. This was a funny story. Till the time, I was not penalized. But think of it, if I go there and if the visa counter is closed and I'm coming back and suddenly I'm caught and I'm told that because you don't have a visa, we are taking you for custody, then how it would have happened? Then how it would be? So I hope, Kritika, I am clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Suddenly I had a Wi-Fi issue. That's why I checked with you.
No. You are clear. You are clear here.
Next is the detention in police station like a petty criminal for operational issues of a vessel. There are some places who are very, very, very strict about the port issues and any problem that you take. For example, if your oil, some oil sheen is seen around your ship, the first thing they would do is charge you that you would have thrown oil out into the sea. And they would like to take you for investigation. Or if any problem happens on a ship with the stevedots or the people who are coming for cargo, or some operation issue happens which is causing some harm, delay in cargo, which can cause a bigger issue problem, then very rarely they would also cause it a problem like if your equipment has failed and if your boom has fallen of the crane and it could have injured another person or could have caused a greater issue, then they take you to the police station, like as if, if like somebody threatening on board to us and I could have got killed because of this mistake. So like this, if you're taken to a police station, the police really are not aware of the maritime law and the various operational issues on board mostly. And they can treat you like a petty criminal and make you sit just like any other tout or any other pickpocketer or any other drunkard who would have been, put into the prison. And they would not still give you a special status just because an operational issue has happened on your ship. Investigation for minor operational accidents which are said to be willful default of the ship staff. As I just explained, that such operational issues like not operating the winch properly or not operating the crane properly, which may have caused some harm to the shore personnel, can be taken very seriously in some ports. Now we come to the main topic of rights of a seafarer against criminalization. Now, you have heard the story that what all can happen with the seafarer. But what rights, as somebody asked me, that who should tell you the rights? There's nobody who tells you the right. You have to read it yourself. So these are some of the rights that you have as a seafarer. These are a collection of rights given to them from various statutes, legislation, guidelines, like IMO 2006 guidelines, UN clause article 27, 217, 220, 223, 226, 231, European Convention on Human Rights, and International Transport Workers Federation. International ITF is a very big labor union which has given guidelines, and they issue a lot of literature and lot of places in the world. They have their offices also, and it is always the first step which an officer or a seafarer takes is try to reach out to some ITF office who can help them. So we'll go through some of the most important rights available under the international regime are First, right to free legal representation. As the line itself says, here a seafarer has the right to a free legal assistance provided the seafarer does not have sufficient means to pay for legal assistance and the interest of the justice requires that he be given legal representation. Just like any other court of law, he is allowed, a seafarer is allowed to have a legal representation. The first thing a seafarer, in case of any major issue, should ask for a legal representation. And that is an international law which has been accepted, and most of the countries do honor it. Right to interpretation services. The IMO guidelines of 2006 mandate the port of arrest take steps to ensure, if necessary, that the seafarer has appropriate interpretation services. I have gone to one of the attractive views which people give of joining sea is that you come to meet a lot of new people, you visit a lot of countries. I was very lucky that when I was sailing on ships, we had enough time in port, and practically every port I used to go out, visit, and enjoy. However, in today's modern time, it's very difficult to go out, and the time that you are in port is very short. And it is said the ships go to port, not the seafarers, which means that the ships go from one port to another, but a seafarer does not get time or the liberty, or sometimes in some port, the permission to even go out. In fact, even in US, there were some jetties after the 9/11 case which had happened, where they would not even allow you to come down to the jetty. Even if you were a US seafarer also, you were still not allowed to come down, because those were private jetties and they would not allow people to come out and go ashore. However, if you are in a country where the language is very different, Spanish, Italian and all, you may not understand what the person is telling you and what is the crime that he is blaming you for. And that is the time you can request for an interpretation service. It's your right that you should have an interpretation service available so that you know what is being spoken about. Right of seafarers to legal representation during pre-trial proceedings. A very normal thing which any legal student would understand. A seafarer has the benefit of the assistance of legal representative at the initial state of interrogation, that is, from the first police interrogation of the seafarers as well. You know, there is something called a Prevention and Indemnity Club, PNI, what we call. It is very often that seafarers and the owners and the managers inform the seafarer of the PNI club representative in that area, and they make sure that one of the officers from that organization would accompany the seafarer in case he is caught in any problem like this. However, not all ports have that facility, and not all ports may have a PNI club representation as per the clubs, as per the ship's PNI cover. Even then, if you don't get anybody like that to help you, you should ask for a legal representation. Again, the problem might come the language and things like that, but hopefully in today's time, with the communication process in a great state of art, you should be able to talk to a person from your company which is has sent you on board, the owner, the charterer, or the manager, or the seafaring community, the RPSL agency, and request them to ensure a legal representation is provided to you, even when you're going to a police interrogation. Right of a seafarer to communicate confidentially with his lawyer. A very important right, which most seafarers are not aware also. This is because if the legal representative is unable to consult with and receive confidential instructions from the seafarer, the assistance rendered by the legal representative would lose much of its effectiveness. Some of my lawyer friends would have joined today, would understand the importance of this point, and make sure that any person who is said to be a criminal or taken by for interrogation by the police or anybody should be allowed to communicate confidentially with his lawyer. Rights of a seafarer when cooperating as a witness in a no blame investigation. Before I tell you this, I have to inform you that we on ship work on a continuous improvement basis. What does continuous improvement mean? Continuous improvement means that we learn from our mistakes. We find the corrective action, the root cause, and then put it into a preventive action. We do not consider an accident to have happened only to cause a misery to us. We consider an accident to have happened to teach us a lesson so that any more people would not be affected in the future. We have got systems like reporting near misses. Near misses means that an incident could have occurred, but it did not occur because people were vigilant and they saw that something is going wrong and they stopped before it could cause harm. So, near miss reporting, incident reporting, accident reporting is encouraged on the ship so that we can learn from these lessons and a greater harm can be avoided. Thus, the international standards and recommended practice for safety investigation into a maritime casualty or a marine incident, the code, whose application is mandatory for states party to the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, states that the state should ensure that an information from maritime marine safety records is disclosed only in the following circumstances: when it is deemed necessary for transport safety purpose and an impact on the future. Availability of safety information to the marine safety investigation is taken into account. Any adverse effects of disclosure of such information is outweighed by the public interest in the administration of justice or otherwise permitted in the court. When we share such incident reports, near misses, we are not expected to write the names of the people who are involved in that, because we do not want a single person to be a cause of that accident. We always believe that there are various safety rules, various safety holes which are made before an accident or incident happens. And this is the reason to encourage people to report. We tell them, even if you are reporting, you can avoid putting names. And especially when we are sharing with people, we certainly make sure that until unless it is really important that the name of the person should be included for whatever reason, it should only inform about the issue and not the person involved, so that we can learn lessons and avoid making similar mistake in the future. Preservation of the basic human rights. The port of arrest and the flag state must ensure, verify that adequate provisions are in place to provide for the subsistence of each detained seafarer, including as appropriate wages, suitable accommodation, food, and medical care. As very clearly it says, basic human rights.
Sir, 1 minute. I would like to stop you for a technical issue. Like the slide is stuck in the first one only, sir. It is not moving.
Okay, I'm very sorry. Okay, wait.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just,
Can you please remove it from the slideshow mode and
I
use
will
the,
just
yeah.
once again put
Yeah.
it.
Now it is.
Once again, I'll just reshare it again. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. This Google Meet has some problem with the slide sharing. I realized it just now.
No problem. No. We'll just put it again. Can you see the first slide again now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'll just come to the slide which I was on.
Yeah. You need not do the slideshow. You can do it from here only, sir, because Google Meet sometimes does not do the things. So you can change the slides there itself without doing the slideshow.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see now the sixth point, preservation of basic human rights?
No, sir, we are not able to see it.
What are you able to see right now?
Yeah, now we can see it, sir. Now it is okay. Now it
Now
is
it is
fine.
okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Preservation of basic human rights, which we did just now, that he should get the suitable accommodation, food, and medical care. Right to fair treatment. The arresting port and flag state must take steps to ensure that any investigation to determine the cause of maritime accident is conducted in a fair and expeditious manner. We should not be waiting for a very long time to just investigate the issues and all that. We should be taking steps to ensure that people are given the fair treatment, and fair trial should happen as soon as possible. Right to remain silent. Now that's a very important thing. The arrested seafarer has a right to remain silent during and after the accident takes place until he has legal representative along with him. I'm sure the seafarer is harassed so much that the poor fellow does speak out, but this is something which each seafarer should know, that they have the right to remain silent till the time a legal representative or a person who is from a PNI club or a certain person informed by the owners or charters whom he can trust with the local surroundings is there. Right not to self-incriminate. This is a very common right which all of our lawyers know about it. You don't need to say that I have made a mistake or I have done this, I have done this. You can always inform about the incident and the investigation would come out on what has happened and what not has happened. Who was at mistake, who was not at mistake. The seafarer must ensure that they fully understand their right not to self-incriminate and that they fully understand that when statements are made to port, coastal or flag state investigation, they are potentially be used in future criminal prosecution. Right to be informed on the basis on which the investigation is being conducted. Whether it is in accordance with the IMO Code for Investigation for Marine Casualties and Incidents, Resolution 849/20, as amended by the Resolution A 884/21, or as subsequently amended, or pursuant to any other national legal procedures. So, in case if IMO has come out with this code, this resolution, which is a resolution which the port state should use in case of marine casualty and incident. But if they are not using this code, this resolution, and they have some local laws, then that should be informed to the seafarer. However, before the seafarer goes on ship, if he does read something about it and is aware about something, then only he can talk about his rights. Rights to access to seafarers by consular officers of the flag state. The IMO 2006 guidelines give the right to the seafarers access to consular officers and directs the port state to ensure that the obligation of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations. That basically means that you can reach out to your country, the country which you are originating from, the country of the flag state of the vessel, the consular office of the flag state of the vessel, and reach out to them to assist you as and when required. Right to communicate to the following parties. As I told earlier, in today's communication time, you should immediately inform your family member, welfare organizations like ITF, the ship owner, the trade unions, embassy or consulate of the flag state, and the country of residence or nationality. You have the right to inform them, communicate to them that you need help in such a case. Right to repatriate. The coastal state of arrest must take steps to ensure that the seafarers are repatriated once interviewed and they are no longer needed for the investigation. Now, this is a very important right. Most of the port states do not do it, and only when the pressure from the council of the country, the embassy of the country, or the high ups of the country comes up, of the residents or the flag of the ship, then only the port state normally act on this point. Right to get fund for repatriation. It is a duty of the flag state and the seafarer state to ensure that the ship owners fund the repatriation of the national seafarers. In case the ship owner or the ship charterer or the ship manager or the manning company is not doing it, the flag should take the initiative to do it. Right to receive the remittance in wages. The seafarer state, flag state, has a duty to take steps to ensure that the remaining wages and remittance are paid by the ship owner or the manager or whoever is responsible to pay their wages for the time when the investigation is taking place also, or till the time when he actually was on board working as a seafarer on the contract which he has signed. Now, these are a lot of things which I have told, which most of the seafarers are not aware. And normally, a PNI representative, the protection and indemnity representative, assists the seafarer in these cases. However, some places, they are not even there. And that is the time when we as seafarer need to be aware of our rights. Then only we can fight for our rights. When is a vessel deemed to be abandoned? Now, vessel arrest and abandonment is something which has caused a lot of hue and cry, and the seafarers are unnecessarily put to a lot of trouble, not because of them, but because of commercial issues which a vessel can have. I had a case recently where a vessel was arrested for almost 2 years in a port because the ship owner abandoned the vessel with the cargo. And he just did not respond to any of the queries from the manager or the crew authorities or the port or anybody. And the crew on board was staying on that ship in a pathetic condition for almost 1.5 to 2 years. And they were surviving on some of the food and the necessities supplied by welfare organization in the port area, which was there fortunately. Even the port authorities which saw this vessel could not do anything for the seafarers. And they would not allow the seafarers to leave the ship, because if they allowed that, then the ship would be without people and they would be unsafe for the port. So, as per the standard A 2.5.2 clause 2 of MLC 2006, for the purpose of the standard, a seafarer shall be deemed to have been abandoned where in violation of the requirements of this convention or the terms of the seafarer's employment agreement, the ship owner fails to cover the cost of the seafarer's repatriation or has left the seafarer without the necessary maintenance and support, has otherwise unilaterally served their ties with the seafarer, including failure to pay contractual wages for a period of at least 2 months. Now, these are the conditions in which a vessel is deemed to be abandoned. However, the good part is the MLC itself has caused the owners to take a protective cover from the PNI of Certificate of Financial Liability. And if a seafarer is not paid wages for 2 months, he can approach the PNI and inform them that I have not been paid for 2 months and I consider myself abandoned. And the PNI club is supposed to then make arrangements to pay the wages of that person, of that seafarer, for maximum period of 2 months. So a seafarer should be aware that due to whatever issues, if he is not paid for 2 months, he should be very concerned and inform the PNI to get his wages. Recently, a very landmark case which I can say has happened in the Bombay High Court with the Swedish club versus V8 Pool Incorporation and others. where a certain guidelines were laid down which had to be followed in such cases, where a ship was arrested and the PNI club and other parties came forward on humanitarian grounds to pay the wages, food, and essential supplies, and did repatriate crew members also. And these were all considered an expense, as a sheriff expense. Well, what happens in Mumbai, that when a ship is arrested and it is or abandoned, and then it comes under the control of the sheriff of Bombay, and he takes care of the day-to-day expenses on that ship. So obviously, he is the person who's spending the money in order to take care of the seafarers and the people on board. However, later on, the people who have given supplies, the companies which have given supplies to the ship can claim from the sheriff their expenses, and that normally is paid when the ship is sold in an auction or in some other way which the sheriff deems fit. Most notably, the Honorable High Court has clarified that the wages of the crew members occurring post arrest of a ship due to any reason shall be treated with most priority, recoverable as a sheriff's expense. The crew members can also themselves approach the Admiralty Court to recover their wages. Now, this is a very important aspect which a seafarer should be aware, that he as an individual can also approach the Admiralty Court to assist if he finds that the owner, manager, or the RPSL company which he is working for is not assisting him for any reason. In this way, the court has reduced a lot of procedural constraints either put on recovering the basic rights of seafarer in case of arrest of the vessel. COVID-19 also brought about a lot of issues which people were not prepared for. The MLC, the Maritime Labour Convention, was not prepared to deal with a thing like COVID. During this time, a sort of criminalization happened with the seafarer when they were not allowed to go ashore to have treatment, get medicines, get supplies, food, and they were stranded on the ship for the basic necessities also, for no fault of this. For me, that was also kind of a criminalization. State parties shall not refuse to grant free pratic. Free pratic means that the ship, when coming to port, needs to ask that it is healthy, it should be allowed to come in. So just because a COVID patient is there on board, he should not be treated as, the ship should not be treated as a full infected thing, and they should be rendered assistance in order to take care of the health of that person. Flag state must ensure that all seafarers on ship flying their flag are covered by adequate measures to protect their health and that they have access to prompt and adequate medical care while working on board. The port states must ensure that the seafarers on board in the territory who need immediate medical care are given access to medical facilities on shore. So the port states, it's a duty of the port state where the ship is doing cargo operation to ensure that they give all the support, the medical facility and the basic amenities to the ship in case it is affected with COVID. Finally, few suggestions to eradicate some lacuna of rights of on paper and its implementation in reality would be: as soon as a seafarer feels he is in a case where he can be criminalized or arrested, inform all the concerned parties, ship owner, ship manager, RPSL company, charterer, family, union, trade union, friends. Use the social media, inform everybody that I am in this situation. Help me. All crew to be aware of their rights, to be informed about how to respond to such situations. This can be ensured by giving them training or formulating a separate course teaching them on various rights available. We are trying to do this, and I hope next time when I am doing this, many more seafarers would join and take these basic understanding of their rights. Apart from giving training to the seafarers, There should be a course for the training and sensitization of all stakeholders in dealing with such situations. STCW should also include some areas of teaching seafarers his rights and duties. Local agents, if any, can assist the seafarer at the time of accident and during wages proceedings, which normally does happen. And in case a local agent is not coming to help you, please make sure you call up and ask him to do so. Providing legal assistance and psychological support to seafarers in the time of arrest. The seafarers upon arrest are traumatized by the arresting port. They need psychological support in order to conduct a trial properly. Psychological support is again something which has recently grown a lot through the various organizations and through the various trade unions. We also are helping a lot of seafarers whenever they call upon us in order to ensure that they can get our support. And whenever possible, we guide them through how to go about it and ensure that they are not suffering from the issues of criminalization. We also guide them when they are wrong in some cases, and we advise them the correct way to go about it. Like this, there are many other organizations which one seafarer can reach out. And obviously, anytime, if any seafarer feels convicted, please feel free to contact us and we would be happy to guide you ahead also. With this, I complete my short talk on this subject and would be happy now to take any questions that would be there so that we can have an interactive session for a short time before we move on. I would request all of you, if you would like to put on your cameras also, it would be a pleasure to see you also and discuss certain issues of concern that I may have missed. So,
Yeah, and also you can unmute yourself and you can ask your questions.
so
Yeah, Aishwarya. Yeah, Aishwarya, you can ask your question.
if you have any question, please ask. Okay, we
No,
cannot
no,
hear
no,
Aishwarya,
madam.
so we cannot hear you. Anybody else?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aishwarya, there is a lot of background noise.
Hi, actually, I
If you can use your headphones, that will be really great. Yeah, when she's getting ready, so Riaz has one question. Like
Yeah.
there are a lot of companies which have no bribery policy. How does a master or chief engineer manage situation in ports where things won't work without giving gifts?
Yes, it is true that many companies do not have bribery policy. In fact, in our life, we also should have a anti-bribery policy. How many of us can manage that also we should see. Now, it has been a very a big trend in shipping industry that cigarettes and soft drinks and sometimes alcohol also is traded for small favors or just appreciation to services. In fact, there is chartered money also, which is often given to master to ensure that port authorities, customs, and things, people like that are allowed some gifts and some soft drinks and do it. However, having said all that, if it is something like harassment, you certainly should not give it. However, just like any other courtesy, if you feel appreciating the person's work or giving a small gift just as a favor, please do not hesitate. But certainly, if it becomes a harassment, do not try to get into that. That's all what I can say. Anything else?
Sir, I have one more question. Like, uh, uh, regarding the criminalization thing and trial by the courts, uh, the jurisdiction would be a great problem,
Yes.
right? Like how was the what is the role of jurisdiction? And also India as a country does not have treaties or understanding with all the countries. Like not all the countries are part to it, and these ships from India, they sail to countries irrespective of the relationship between the countries. Okay, now as we all know that the war is going on in Ukraine and other things, so how is it a safe profession, or how is the interest of the seafarers are protected?
Well, as I said in the beginning, the jurisdiction is a major issue, but mostly the jurisdiction of the coastal state where the incident has happened is prevalent, and they are the ones who take charge of it. So there is nothing much you can do about it, and it is the people who have suffered, the country which has suffered, takes the lead into making sure that they take care of the proceedings. So that's how it
Okay.
will be.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Aishwarya, can you please ask your question now?
I think she unmuted by mistake, but anyway,
Okay, so any more questions?
even if you don't have any questions, no problem right now. You have my details and you have my name. Please join me on connect with me on LinkedIn, connect
Yeah.
with me on through my website, and if any time you have any issues or any things to connect with me, to ask a question, to know more, please feel free. And we hope that next time when we are joining, we'll have much more better response, and you will also spread the word that next time when we have a maritime such information sharing, please send it to your friends, seafarers especially, and people into maritime community. I thank everybody who has joined in today. I thank Kritika who invited me for this talk show today, and her organization. And Kritika, all yours. If anything else you have in mind, please tell me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would, yeah, I would like to thank you so much for being here. And also, I'm quite disappointed with the number, though I believe quality is the one that matters. But we had more than 80 registrations today, and we had a very good response across all the social media platforms. But unfortunately, we could like gather for around 25 people, but it's okay, no problem. But I hope whoever have attended have acquired the knowledge that they wanted here.
Actually, today is National Maritime Day, and a lot of other
Yes,
function online are also happening.
yes, yes,
As you remember, before I had planned to change the time and all, but then I
yes,
decided to keep the time because here we have a crowd which is different from what would be attending the National Maritime Day celebration. So
exactly.
that is why I accepted to have this going on. Anyway, we all have to keep trying, and even if one person benefits from this webinar which we have done, I think we would have achieved our goal.
Yes, that's what it matters. And yeah, I would like to thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak on this topic and spending your 2 hours with us, because I know you and you are invited at various places. You will have to be visiting here and there. So, yes, thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming here and addressing the gathering. And I hope all of you have made a wonderful knowledge out of it, and you have
Thank you.
got more idea about maritime like I have got. Seriously, I have got a
We will
great.
plan some more such webinars in the near future, and
Sure.
I'm sure we will develop better interest. And moreover, we are going to also look ahead to try and start a maritime law short course also along with you, so that we can have more people understanding the requirements and seafarers who can know more about maritime law, their rights and duties also, so that they can be
And
better at
also
sea.
maritime law as a career option.
As a
Like,
career option also is there,
yeah,
of course.
exactly. Because many of the advocates, law students, they being complained that we don't have much of career options. We have to either go practice or work in a corporate side, in a contract sector. But it is not that. You have plethora of options that are unexplored. So thank you so much for putting light on that gray area of law. And yes, we have couple of appreciation comments.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and from
Okay, so if
the-
any more questions are not there, let's sign off and enjoy the evening. Thank you so much, all of you. Keep
thank you,
happening,
sir.
keep happy, and keep healthy. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you for all the advice. Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.